Right, guys, I normally try to avoid doing this sort of thing because there's about 1,000,000,001 experts on YouTube that will all love to tell you that you're wrong, or I'm wrong, or he's wrong, or she's wrong, or whatever. However, due to the fact that obviously a couple of weeks ago now, Remnant went free on the Epic Game Store, I've seen a huge influx in players as well as streamers, and a lot of them are getting to this lovely guy and then stop. So I'm not going to teach you or tell you how to do it. I'm going to show you the pattern, because so many people that I have seen either get really bad advice or really bad ideas and they get stuck, and I've even heard people uninstalling the game and getting just rage quitting in general because of this boss. So there is a trick to this boss, and it is literally follow the pattern. If you have a way to deal with certain things, deal with them. I will go over my recommendations, but what you do with that is entirely up to you. This is simply just how I do it. So, first things first is when you get into the boss area, you might have noticed that the first one spawns on the left. There is a huge cocoon behind you on the right hand side. This will spawn when number one, this guy, the one on the left, at 75% health. So once he hits 75, the one in the cocoon will spawn in at 100%, unless you force the spawning, in which case you then start the rotation, but number two will spawn in at 75% health. If you do not spawn them in, the moment number two hits the bridge, they will do their special attack, which is they'll both scream together. This can be optimal if you have two players with very high DPS, because while they're charging their scream, they get a hell of a weak spot bonus on their face. So that is a okay way to do it. A more roundabout way, but also probably more in the terms of DPS capable, would be to spawn it in. It spawns at 75% health. As it's coming in, it will take a while. So you can either get number one down to about 80% and then release it, or if you've got good damage, release it immediately, and on the travel down, get the number one down to about 80-75%. Number two will go to the entrance of where you entered and just start laser beaming predetermined points on the bridge 6 times. It doesn't change. It's once you've done this enough, if you get hit by that laser beam while they're in this rotation, it is entirely your fault. It does not aim for you. So it is a good idea at this point to ignore the one doing the laser beam and purely focus on the one actively attacking you. Once it has finished doing its rotation, they will both charge their scream. As you can see here, they will now scream. Hopefully I can heal through this, and I can show you the next stage of the rotation, which is really simple. The one you spawned in that just did laser beams will stay. The original one will back off a little bit. It goes to the edge of the canyon. It then returns and it starts its laser beam rotation from the opposite side at the other end of the bridge. So it won't spawn or start its laser points at the side you entered. It will start at the other end, obviously from its side, and move down 6 times. This is quite simply the rotation. The one that is doing the laser beam, generally, I argue, completely ignore. If you get hit by the laser beam because it's not actively gunning for you, it is literally just a moving point, if you will. And then from there, once it completes its rotation, they charge the scream. That is it. That's all they do. It is quite simple. Now, admittedly, this is a very simple pattern, but there is 2 of them. There is a lot going on. So, what can you actively do? I'm going to show you this in full time with me actually trying rather than showing. So I've got my DPS build here. It is on Apocalypse, but if you're coming across this for the first time, possibly have it on normal or hard. If you have it on nightmare or apocalypse, you're a crazy person, but I respect that. It's beautiful, especially if you can do it. Now, there are a few things up to this point that I would suggest you do, or at least acquire. Osseous armor, don't know how it's pronounced. It's from Rom. You speak to Wud, the merchant, the little doggy that you can pat. If you buy all of his secrets, it unlocks an armor for you. This scales up the more you hit, which means if you're focusing one target, you do more damage. Void armor is another good one. It's a flat 25% increase until you get hit, and then you get a 25 defense, which is pretty handy in this fight. The downside to it is a heavy armor, so it will slow you down and consume a bit more stamina than you might like, but it is a very good option. Also on ROM, there is a mod that you can acquire from a boss called Shatter and Shade. This is Veil of the Black Tear. This is my general go-to when fighting this boss. It is quite simply this little bubble that you can see me put up here. It's effectively a projectile shield. The melee attacks can still get through, but the little wisps and the corrosive grenades they throw will not. With the corrosive grenades, there is a bit of a blast radius, so if you're actually stood at the edge of the shield, the proc or the blast of it can still get you, and this can very quickly ruin your days. It does a hell of a lot of corrosive damage, as well as apply the corrosive proc, which reduces your armor. Now, you might notice that I very rarely look at the other moth boss thing while it's doing the laser beam. I literally count the lasers. Now, with the build setup I've got, I require actually trying to keep them both under bleed as much as possible. However, it's not really a requirement. It just helps my damage, especially when they're doing the double scream. And as you can see, once one of them dies, the other enters an enraged state, which basically puts its AI to random, and it will just continually attack, as well as proccing off that random laser beam whenever it feels like it. To get the ult kill, it's also generally a good idea, because I've seen so many people get one of them down and then they struggle when the second enters the enraged state. To get the ult kill, you need to kill both of them pretty much at the same time, or at least you kill one, and when the other one enters the I'm angry animation, it needs to die before it exits that animation, or at least within a few seconds. Now, if you are playing on Apocalypse and you've got through, I am showing my build that I use for this. Feel free to copy or utilize, or at least adapt it in your own way. It's not perfect, it is just the way I am most comfortable playing, and just take the information that I have given you, at least the pattern, and utilize it to the best of your ability. The pattern is actually pretty damn simple, as I said. The issue is that there is just so much going on, and it does become very complex and convoluted. It's also very easy for me to sit here and go, oh yeah, you just do this, this, this and this, when I've got like 500 hours in the game, which doesn't help people that are just starting out. They've just got here, they don't have all the traits I've got, all the gear, blah de blah de blah, which is why I tried to demonstrate this on Apocalypse. This boss can ruin your run very quickly and very easily. It is all just a matter of getting the pattern down, realizing what's happening, and then doing something about it. One of the main things I would recommend is learn the dodge timings for the melee attacks pretty damn quick, because this damn boss is relentless, especially when both of them are active after the laser beams. There's normally a good few seconds there where both of them will actively attack you or summon wisps, and then they charge their little scream. But it's all just trying to figure out the way it works. As you can see here, I'm actually struggling because I'd not used this specific build against this boss at this point. You might have noticed on the previous run through where I completed it, I threw my fan of knives at the cocoon as I entered, whereas this time I haven't. So it does take a while to get used to this boss regardless. The only way in which you can really do it is by keep trying and just try and take on board what I've said and adapt it to how you want to play. In the meantime, good luck, have fun, and don't die. It's bad for the health.